Welcome to the Dream Journal. From the studios of KSQD in Santa Cruz, the Dream Journal is a weekly show where we explore the power of nighttime dreams through conversations with dream experts and with listeners like you.
In the house behind, the life you find is something understood.
A dream can be meaningful even if you don't know what it means.
Time is keenly found. We are not alone. Water over stony.
And today's music is called Mystorical, created fresh for us this morning by Rick Leffel. Mystorical. Do your dreams alone tell the story of your life? Wendy Ortiz presents Bruja, a Dreamoir, a book which consists of a series of dreams from a challenging few years. A glimpse into her subconscious, the book is mesmerizing and playful. Wendy will talk about the process of creating this book and about how dreams inform her waking life. I am your host, Catherine Bell of Experiential Dreamwork, and welcome to the Dream Journal. I'm going to just start with a quick dream of my own this morning after reading all those dreams of Wendy's book. Listeners know how I have many dream journal nightmares, and I had a dream journal good dream. One of our groups, we decided to call these a honey dream. So I had a honey dream about doing the podcast. And this dream, the whole station is barricaded, and somebody has taken over the station, and I'm not daunted at all. I take the hand of this 10-year-old girl standing there, and I walk in and sit down at the microphone. Easy peasy. Woohoo! So, just to share that, dreams do change. And so here I am. After my 2 weeks absence, I'm back live at the microphone with my 10-year-old girl, hand to hand. Early bird registration for the IASD conference goes through June 1st. Keynotes include lucid dreaming expert Charlie Morley, precognitive dream scientist Dr. Julia Mossbridge, and Jungian analyst Dr. Fanny Brewster. It's June 21 to 25 with 5 days of presentations plus networking, receptions, a side contest, and one of my particular favorites that I'm hosting this year, a fabulous dream ball where you get to dance to a Spotify playlist where you get to suggest the music. Look online for music suggestions on the Facebook page of the IASD, and I believe Instagram as well. So this conference is all online, so no flights, just insights. Registration is open now at asdreams.org. And I'll be giving 2 different presentations. One, which is a summary of my treasure hunt approach to dreamwork through lectures. And then there's also a 4-session experiential morning dream group where we're going to be working with dreams directly for an hour, 4 mornings in a row. So I hope you can be there. asdreams.org to register. Now on to Wendy Ortiz. Hello, Wendy. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure.
Great. I'm so glad to connect. Wendy C. Ortiz is a writer of creative nonfiction who works in hybrid forms, essays, and memoir. She is the author of Excavation, a memoir, Hollywood Notebook, essays, and Bruja, a Dreamoir, all published by Northwestern University Press. Ortiz is a therapist in private practice in Los Angeles. You can find her at wendyortiz.com. Ortiz is O-R-T-I-Z. She's also on Blue Sky at wendyortiz.com and on Instagram at wendy.c.ortiz. So, Wendy, a Dreamoir. I understand that this is something that you published in 2016, but it's recently been re-released by Northwestern University Press. And so, what is a Dreamoir? Please explain.
So, we came up with this term Dreamoir because when we think about dreams, at least for some of us feel as though dreams are fiction. And I don't subscribe to that feeling, that idea that dreams are fiction. They feel like a mixture of fiction and nonfiction if we have to assign some genre to it.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was compiling these particular dreams, I was thinking about them in terms of what was happening in my life at that time. So my other book, Hollywood Notebook, is actually like the daytime to Bruja's nighttime dreams. So they kind of go together. And I just think about Dreamoir as like, this is the memoir of what I was going through.
So Wendy, you were saying that dreams are not fiction, which is, I think I agree with that. I understand what you're saying. It's like,
it's somewhere between fiction and nonfiction. Again, if we have to assign some genre to what dreams are, that's how I see them.
Okay.
So we came up with this idea of, let's call it Dreamoir, because it's not exactly memoir, but it is memoir because this is a memoir of dreams during a particular period of time.
Okay, because the entire book is just the dreams. You never see anything about the waking life. There isn't even an introduction explaining that this is all dreams. It's just clear from the context that it's dream after dream after dream, which is fascinating. I really found it mesmerizing to dive in.
I was inspired by a section of Harper's Magazine. I don't know if you're familiar. I assume you're familiar with Harper's Magazine. I don't know.
Yep, I am.
There's a section that they include in every issue where they're just pulling ephemera, like different source materials together from totally random, disparate places. And they had included a section from a zine that somebody made where they were writing their dreams as though they were newspaper stories. Ooh. So like every dream was written as though it had a headline, and it was written with like a lead. And I found that so fascinating to think about as a prompt. Like, what if I just wrote these dreams as though they actually happened? I'm just reporting the dreams.
Right. Okay.
So that was the initial inspiration many, many years ago when I was writing these dreams. And later I decided that I would start editing them so that they sounded like discrete little stories, because that's what they looked like when I reread them.
Right.
So that was the initial inspiration. And the dreams take place between roughly 2002 to 2005. And they, like I said, directly correspond with my book, Hollywood Notebook, which is like above ground, daytime, and Bruja is underground, nighttime.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, interesting. And do you explain in Hollywood Fiction that this connection between these two books, or you just...
In Hollywood Notebook, I've not explained that. It's funny because these books came out on different years, and initially I really did want to sort of market them as like, these books go together, but because they came out in different years with different presses, I never really had an opportunity to do that. So with this reprinting from Northwestern University Press, we are talking about them and making that connection that if you were to read them, you could read Hollywood Notebook during the day, you could read Bruja at night, and you would get a glimpse of what this one person's, unconscious is doing during the day and night.
Okay. And yet it was fascinating. I just read Bruja by itself, and there's a certain flow to it, like that you can see things evolve from night to night. Certain themes come back. That's one of the cool things, is that there are certain themes that just come back over and over again, and you hopefully have an index in the back, which is brilliant. So you can look up the images, like.
Yes. I mean, don't we all wish for that? If we're keeping a dream journal, wouldn't it be so cool to keep an index going so that you could always look back, like, when was I dreaming this one thing?
Right.
That was the impetus for creating this index. We were like, we have to be able to go back and find out, how many times did I dream about cats?
Right.
How many times how many times was there a bus, or how many times was I in a place that looked like Olympia, Washington, but wasn't quite exactly Olympia, Washington?
Right. Yeah, I would love to have that. And with electronic dreams, it's possible to like search various things.
Yes.
But to have that like automatically done is kind of brilliant. So, what was it like for you just to be spending all this time with dream after dream after dream after dream, and editing?
Yeah, I think that when you spend that much time with dream journals, those images just tend to stick with you, like they're like actual memories of something that happened. Again, even though it didn't actually happen in the waking life, it feels so real. And I'm somebody who has been writing down my dreams for as long as I can remember.
Oh, really?
But this was the first time that I looked at one particular set of years and decided, okay, this is the set that we're going to work with and create into an actual book. Because it so closely corresponded to Hollywood Notebook.
So you deliberately picked it to complement what was going on in your outer world, what you wrote about.
Yeah, and these, I found this particular set of years, there's a lot of thematic elements that repeat. And some of those elements don't appear in a lot of my later dreams. This is a period of time where I was going through tremendous change. I was going through Saturn return, my first Saturn return. And, there will be a lot of explosions and tsunamis and threats of different kinds. And my more recent dreams are quite different. When I can remember them, they feel very different. And, I have to imagine that every point in someone's life, you are going to have obviously different types of dreams depending on what is happening in the daytime. And because that was such a rough period of time, the dreams tended to be extremely dramatic, but that made them really great in terms of storytelling and how to describe what's happening to a person in waking life just through dreams.
Interesting. And did you include all of your dreams, or some of the dreams that you decided no?
There's one dream that I really toyed with whether or not I wanted to include it, because it was a dream. It was a nightmare, actually, that I had in August of 2001. And I shared the dream with my coworkers when it happened. And then when the tragedy of September 11th occurred, my coworkers were reminded of the dream that I had, and a couple of them literally told me, "Don't talk about this dream. This dream is it feels too threatening that you had this dream." And so it was, it's very clear to me in my mind still, all of the elements of that dream. But I haven't felt yet this is a dream that feels comfortable to share, because its relationship to what happened, it just feels too strange, too weird. And I just thought, okay, let's leave this dream out of this book and focus on what was happening when I moved from Olympia, Washington back to Los Angeles and was making a new life. Let's focus just on that period of time. So I didn't include that dream on purpose. I don't know if or when I'll ever write that dream out. But yeah, I decided to just work with these particular dreams. And certainly I edited out some of the dreams during that period that weren't quite as interesting or that wouldn't flow in this storyline as well.
Right. And of course, these are just the dreams you remember, because we're all having many more dreams than we remember.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
I always like to give my dream people total license to not talk about certain dreams. If they don't want to, then they don't have to.
Yes.
And yet I'm curious, because often those ones that I don't want to talk about, for me, is a big flag that says, "Ooh, there's something really important happening here," right?
Yes, but I can remember dreams from childhood that I remember thinking "Ooh, that's so creepy. I never want to speak about that. I don't like that." And over time, getting more comfortable with the idea of those dreams, because it's I didn't have control over having that dream. It just is what it is. And it's just, now it's kind of funny when I look back on it. But yeah, there are some dreams that feel way they feel like they carry some sort of heaviness to them that it's sometimes hard to bring into daily life.
Right. And I think, it's kind of about consent culture, that if we have consent about our own yeses and nos, and if we got a really strong no to that dream, I got to trust that my psyche's working with it, and it will continue to work with it. And when I feel comfortable to join in the process, I can do that when I'm ready. I don't have to. Just because I had a dream doesn't mean I have to talk about that dream.
Right.
So I see.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. Now you're a therapist, right? You do psychotherapy
I'm a therapist. Yes.
Right. And so do you work with dreams with your people?
Occasionally, I don't direct it that way, but if someone brings in a dream, we will certainly talk about it. I've had some interesting books in the past that I looked at occasionally when I was thinking about my own dreams. I don't use those in a session, but we will just talk out all of the different elements of, something in someone's dream if they're open to it. Sometimes people are very excited, as you probably know. Yeah. They are very excited to talk about dreams. And sometimes it's like I can tell that they want to share the dream, but they don't want to go very deeply into the dream. Right. And I leave it up to them about how deeply we'll try and talk about that dream.
Perfect.
So that's kind of how I work. But I'm so fascinated by the kind of work that you do. It's just, there's a part of me that's like, wow, this would be an alternate career if I, because I've been so interested in dreams my whole life that this sounds so amazing to be working with dreams constantly. And also sometimes it sounds like, wow, like getting lost in dreams. Like I feel like I could easily get lost in them.
Ah, yes. Oh, interesting. Yeah, people don't come to me unless they're interested in dreams because that's what I do, right? And so, and yet I always start off with what's happening in your life because it's always related to the life, and it helps us connect and drop in and what is going on in the conscious mind, and then the dreams. We talk about the dreams and sometimes it refers back to what the check-in was all about, and sometimes it's a whole new topic, which is very cool because then that's the thing that the person didn't even know was going on for them.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. The funny thing to me about looking back at this book, because since the books just came out, I'm talking and thinking about them a lot or reading from them publicly, and looking back at Bruja, some of the dreams strike me as they still feel very relevant in a lot of ways. Some of the imagery, some of the topics that are brought up in the dreams, I'm like, wow, these dreams are from 20 plus years ago, and yet they still feel very relevant to everyday life now, and that is so strange to me.
Yeah, well, I have had that experience as well, looking back through my journals since I've been writing, working on my book, and my book's not exclusively dreams, but I do share a lot of my dreams. I have like 120 dreams so far in the book.
Wow.
And so I'm often looking at my old journals, and I'm often struck by certain dreams that are just like, oh yeah, that's totally relevant right now. And some of them I remember, some of them I don't remember, but they're still relevant, and some of them I don't remember and they're not relevant. So there's the whole gamut.
Right.
The whole gamut.
Right.
Yeah.
So how do you choose which ones go into your book?
Well, typically I have some point that I'm trying to discuss because it is about how to work with your dreams and how I've worked with my dreams. So basically how I've worked with my dreams, and hopefully this is helpful for you. Because people are different. And so I have something that I would like to explore, then I look for a dream that's related to that topic. Yeah.
So cool. Yeah.
So Wendy, I'm wondering if you want to give an example of a dream, maybe from a Bruja, then that maybe was related to a waking life experience. I had another thought, but I don't want to put you on the spot right now. I'm going to just throw it out, and maybe after the break, because you mentioned about reading from your book of dreams, and I thought it might be fun to have you read a few of the dreams over the air without comments.
Yes, I'd love to.
Okay,
sure.
And but you can get take the break to think those if you want to, unless you have them at the top of your mind already. But let's go back to the first question. I'm famous for asking multiple questions at once.
Uh-huh.
Oh, well. So the first question was, can you give an example of a dream from Bruja and what waking life experience it related to and how it picked up on like the emotions of the waking life experience that during the time the dream was happening?
Yes, I am thinking right now about a dream in which I was talking to someone who at the time in real life was a mentor of mine, a writing mentor. And during this period of time that I was having these dreams, I was very much struggling with my writing. I had a draft of my first book. I didn't really know where to go with it. I was feeling like just kind of flailing, floundering a lot with it. And in this dream, the mentor told me about this writer's residency that I should go to, but told me that along the way there would be a lot of snakes. And that if I could get past these snakes, then I would be fine.
Well, wait. This is waking life, or is this the dream?
Well, this was the dream.
Oh, okay.
But in reality, this person was my mentor, and she did give me a lot of guidance. Sometimes not the greatest. Sometimes her mentorship, later on, it wouldn't be years later till I thought, oh, maybe that wasn't the best suggestion that she gave me. So her suggestions, of course, at the time, I was taking very seriously, but having this dream where she also warned me about the snakes on the way could have been a clue as to like, oh, maybe be a little bit more conscientious about the advice you're getting from this mentor. Right. This mentor who meant very well, but didn't always give me the best advice. Right. So that dream seems so clear to me when I think about like what I was going through as a writer, how I was struggling, how I needed help, and I got some help, but there were some warning signs about the things that she was suggesting that I do. So that's one that comes to mind right away.
Right. I've had that experience as well. Writing mentor who's very well-meaning, and yet wasn't quite the thing for me. Right.
Yes.
And one thing about the dream work that we all do, and it sounds like you work with your dreams very similarly, is that learning to trust the aha. Like the like, oh, that makes sense. Without even needing to understand what does that mean. Like a dream can be meaningful, even if you don't know what it means. Like, wow, okay, there's something there for me. Like the dream this morning of, didn't have the dream this morning, but the dream I shared this morning of me coming into the station and claiming my space at the microphone. It's just like meaningful. I mean, and you could say that has a clear waking life meaning as well. Yes. But plenty of dreams don't have that clear waking life meaning. Right. And yet I can trust there's something valuable. And that's so true in waking life too. Like, do I get to trust my own intuition about what to do and not do? And for many years I didn't. I would just say, well, what should I do? Or what do other people want me to do? And like my own intuition wasn't valuable. But working with dreams has really helped me tune into my own intuition in a deeper way.
Yes. And I don't think that at that time my intuition was something that I was completely clued into. Like on some level, yes, but also questioning it, which is why I think this dream occurred that, something was trying to show up and say, well, your mentor's saying this, but also there may be snakes along the way. So pay attention.
That seems right. Okay. Well, let's take a short break and we'll get ready for the callers, too. And I want to say this is a Wendy Ortiz, and she is here talking about her book, Bruja, a Memoir, a book which is entirely composed of dreams, which is being released by Northwestern University Press. This is like the whole idea of dreams and how they interweave with waking life. Her webpage is wendyortiz.com. And we are broadcast live from the KSQD studios in Santa Cruz and co-broadcast live in San Jose by KCXU. After the break, we're going to get more personal. Maybe I'll talk more about Wendy's early dreams, and I'd love to have her read from her book, pick out a few dreams to read to us. We'll be right back. You are listening to the Dream Journal, and I am Catherine Bell of Experiential Dreamwork. I'd like to send out a special welcome to our far-flung listeners. We have local listeners, Santa Cruz, Scotts Valley, Marina, San Jose, Pacific Grove, Oakland. We also have Vacaville, California. Special shout out to Nuevo Vallarta, Mexico, and Ashburn, Virginia in the U.S. Thanks for being a Dream Journal listener. It's our live listeners that make this podcast so special. You can go to Facebook and Instagram to find out about upcoming shows and pod drops by following hashtag The Dream Journal and at Experiential Dreamwork. And I request, if you are so called, to follow the Dream Journal on your favorite podcast app. It helps us nudge the algorithm along. But really, even more important, I would love to inspire people to talk about dreams to their friends and family. Just talking about them without needing to know what it means. I think it can be incredibly valuable. So also please contact me if you'd like to be a guest on the show. You could talk about a new book, or you can let folks know about your dream-related offerings. I have weekly shows, so I'm always looking for guests. So we have the big international ISD conference in June, excuse me, which you heard about, and you can find out more about it at asdreams.org. But also please mark your calendar for a local in-person event at the beautiful Santa Cruz Museum of Art and History. The Festival of Dreams is back. The dates are October 10th through 12th. This will be our fourth festival, though there's been a 5-year hiatus between number 3 and 4. But we'll be back October 10th through 12th. And next week, we will welcome a revolutionary award-winning filmmaker, Tiffany Howard, and we will find out all about her approach to dreams. So today's guest is Wendy Ortiz, and we are talking about her newly released book, Bruja, a Dreamoir, about all series of dreams that she had during a very turbulent time in her life. And it's really not about a series of dreams. It is a series of dreams. It's dream after dream, and just to step into the world of subconscious. And Wendy, thanks for sharing this with us, because it's really an intimate glimpse into the psyche, the subconscious.
Yes, it's funny because I have published other books. The 2 other books are memoirs, and people will sometimes ask me which of the books felt like the hardest to share. And Bruja is the one that feels the most vulnerable.
Wow.
This is the one where everything, I have no control over what was happening in these dreams, and I did very little editing of things, so it feels like it's the most vulnerable book of the 3.
Okay, so it's courageous just to put it out there, and I can feel that way when you're starting to share dreams with your friends or in a family. It's like, whoa, this is like some inner part of me. I don't know what it means, but we don't need to know what it means to share, and it's still somehow valuable. It's something of this just enhances this inner work that the dreams are doing all on their own. Yeah. So one of the things that I was curious about is you mentioned working with a Jungian analyst with your dreams, and I take it you don't do that anymore. But I wondered what you wanted to say about that, and how was that? Because they have a very particular way of looking at dreams.
They do have a very particular way. And, I did this work for probably about 3 years, that particular kind of analysis, when I was becoming a therapist. And I really liked it, and it gave me some language to talk and think about with my own clients in terms of how we thought about dreams. And maybe one of the biggest takeaways from that work was that whenever I thought about dreams after working with her, I would think about like all of the different people in the dreams as different parts of myself, and like what that could mean, or even animals, like what could be embodied in that animal that I am maybe trying to cultivate, or I'm trying to sometimes avoid. So it just gave me like a more expansive way of thinking about dreams than I had previously been exposed to.
And so, but how do you work with your dreams now? Do you say that you don't remember dreams maybe as often as you used to?
I don't remember them quite as often, and they sometimes seem like what I do remember of the dreams now is it'll often feel like when I wake up, I'll wake up and I feel like I've been talking all night. I feel like I was in conversations. I was in big groups of people talking and exerting energy. And so it's not as though I wake up tired, but I do feel as though I had this very full night of conversations with people that I can't remember. It's either that or I am seeing all of these really big structures. Sometimes they are identified in the dream as like a college or a university, and I'm trying to find my way around them, and they're humongous. Sometimes the structures are a little smaller, and they're like, I'm looking at the inside of a really beautiful house, and I'm walking around all of these different rooms, and more often than not, somewhere in the dream, I discover that this is mine. I get to have this house. And I'm so excited because I'm like, wow, there's all of these rooms, and I keep finding more rooms, which, on some level feels like, okay, this is maybe about like psyche development. I don't know.
Yeah,
but like,
totally.
I love walking through all of these rooms and discovering that this is all mine, and I get to play with it.
Wow, that's great. That reminds me of my mom's dreams when I was growing up, and she was sometimes she'd come down to the breakfast table and say, oh, I've had one of those architectural dreams. I open the door and there's this more and more rooms. And those always seem like, the good mornings like this. That's like discovering myself more and more. And, there is something about the fact that most of the dreams we ever have, we don't remember. It cannot be the case that a dream that's not interpreted as like a letter unopened, because there are so many of them that we don't even remember, never mind open up and explore.
Right.
So there's some, we think about all the animals that dream, and as far as we know, like our dogs are not talking to each other about their dreams there. Right? That can't be the main use of dreams, although it can be powerful, and I believe it enhances our evolution. There's something natural and innate about dreaming that happens at the subconscious level that's, I think of it as an emotional immune system, and that there's somehow, but it's like the state that our mind is in when we're dreaming is the point of the dream, is to put our brain into that state. And so that's why when I work with a dream, I want to recreate that state as much as possible. There's something valuable there, and it's my body knows better than my conscious mind what I need, and all animals dream, even like cuttlefish, right? Octopuses, spiders seem to dream. I mean, it's like it's almost universal. So, as far as everywhere they've looked, they find at periods of activity during sleep that seem to correlate to dreams, like dream-like behavior. So there's something fundamental about this.
Amazing.
This thing that we do. So, people who don't remember their dreams, that's fine. You're still dreaming, and they are still helping you, even if you never remember a single one. So, I think that's people talk about the dream drought. Oh no, a dream drought! I can't remember a dream. You're like, well, okay, but still something's happening. It's going on below the level. So, Wendy, I wonder, would you like to read us a few dreams?
Yes, I'd love to.
Okay.
I'd love to. I'm just going to pick randomly a couple of dreams, and I'll just say too that, because these are dreams, some of them are quite short.
Right.
And might be some, a few sentences, and then at most, maybe a dream is about 2 pages, 3 pages. That's pretty rare. In this book, they're all quite short.
Right, but that's natural. It's my experience as well. Yeah.
Yes. When I awoke, the electricity was out. Shelves of books had fallen. Pieces of ceiling tile hung loose. The air was not circulating. I looked around, embarrassed that I might have fallen asleep at work. When I finally got the courage to walk through some of the rubble around my desk and ask someone if I'd fallen asleep, just as the words came out of my mouth, I realized we had all gone unconscious, that the power of the earthquake was like that of an explosion. Black burn marks tattooed the carpet and ceilings. We'd been knocked about like toys into unconsciousness. I rubbed my eyes. This was a major catastrophic event. Injuries, sirens. It was 5 o'clock, but I wasn't sure I was going home.
Oh.
And another one. This one I find very amusing. A television show about artists held my complete focus in my mother's living room, despite all the unfamiliar men also in the living room who were focused on me. The show was about two particular artists. They wore wild and colorful clothes. No one but me seemed interested, so people in the room talked about where they lived. An unfamiliar older woman I hadn't seen earlier asked me where I lived. In seedy, dirty Hollywood, and I love it, I said, enjoying every word. And maybe one last one that's a little bit eerier. The United States had closed all of its borders. I was in a hotel room when I found out on the East Coast, near the Canadian border. There was a government man in a blue suit charged with calming large crowds of people. He told us that we could not leave the country, and in fact, we could not go anywhere but the immediate area. The crowd protested amongst itself. We could not believe this turn of events. I said aloud, "Perhaps we can go underwater and declare water sovereign." I was half joking. At the Canadian border, a woman read a prepared statement telling us why we could not cross. It was clear from the way she held her mouth tensely as she read that she had not written it herself. A number of us in the crowd protested her outright. In the small swell of panic, I contemplated what I would do: set fires, burn my way out of the country.
Wow.
And yeah, I'll share.
And that was about 20 years ago too. So
that's what's so strange to me. That's what I mean when I'm like looking at some of this, going, why does this feel strangely relevant now?
Yeah.
The last one I'll read is another one that I find amusing as well, just because I didn't make some connections. I'll explain in a moment, but I gave birth to a baby girl. I was at my mother's house. I was dressed in a white half-slip and long-sleeved white silk shirt. A cat asked me if I would nurse her. I knew it was weird. I looked around. I could find a private place. I said yes. In my childhood bedroom, I situated the cat on one breast and the little girl on the other. I called the little girl Lupita. And I find this one interesting because at the time I had a cat named Lupita, so that wasn't so strange. But what I didn't connect until years later was that Lupita was the nickname of one of my great-grandmothers. And I didn't really think about that until so many years later, rereading it, going, wait a second. Of course, there's another Lupita in my life. It's not just this cat.
Right. Well, there's always many layers to dreams. Like if I come up with one meaning of a dream, then I've just gotten started. There's more.
Yes, yes. That's what's so fun about them.
Oh, thank you, Wendy. It's just great just to kind of let the dreams roll by and picture them in my mind and kind of moving from one scene to the next. And it's it's beautiful. Like when people, there's this kind of trope where someone says, "Oh, I had a dream last night," and everybody else rolls their eyes and goes, "Oh no, now what?"
Right.
But as a dream person myself, what I have tried to do is to cultivate just like I'm just going to like step into that moment and imagine it happening to me, and just like letting it roll by. Yeah, like in a
I'm ready for that trope to end.
Yeah, I know.
I love listening to dreams. I am like the first person that wants to hear your dreams. So like, yes, whenever someone brings that up and kind of rolls their eyes, I'm like, wow,
right.
There's a lot that's missing here, because I love talking about them, and I feel like there is so much to talk about. So I'm totally ready for that trope to end.
Right. And that's one of the things that Bruja really seems to celebrate for me is that we can just let them roll by. We can listen to them. We can step into the world of the dreams, and we don't have to analyze anything. Like there's nothing to hook your analyst hat onto in the dream and the book, because it's just dreams. But we can like go into those dreams and say, well, yes, I have felt like this too. Like this dream speaks to me because it says something that I can relate to. And so there's something that I love about just dream after dream, and you've picked some beautiful dreams. But as you say, some of them are really short, some are just a few lines, and they're all just like, okay, and then move on to the next one.
Yes. Trying to end this book was pretty hard, because I didn't know like what dream do you end on to end this story? Like what do you do? So I would say that the last page of the book is really the one where I allow the daytime reality to come in, and it begins with a piece of a dream. And then I talk about drinking a cold brew coffee on a sidewalk with a friend who's talking to me about lucid dreaming techniques. And then I was able to go back into the same dream and think about, it's like I brought that daytime information into the dream, and then I felt like I understood what the ending was, that it was this mixture of daytime life and the dream life. And so that very last dream of the book includes a little bit of both to help kind of just bring this to some kind of closure.
Right, because of course there is no end. That's
right.
The life is life, and we carry on, and until we don't. And there's something about that you capture very beautifully in this book.
Thank you.
And so I'm going to say one more time, Bruja, Dreamoir, and I don't think I've spelt it. Bruja, Bruja. And where does that word come from?
That is Spanish. It's the word for witch. And I liked using this word for this title of the book because it's as though this character, if I think about this character dreaming, who is me, all of these fantastical, wild things are happening. And they're happening, of course, at night, but different things are manifesting during the day that have connection to these dreams. And it feels extremely witchy to me, as well as the dreams in the book that have to do with my mother or my grandmother. These are women who have always had, to me, witchy qualities. And they would never, ever like for me to call them brujas, but they are. This is just who they are.
Right.
And they may think about it pejoratively, but I don't. I think about it as complimentary. These are people who have different types of insight and intuition that I'm not even sure they have fully acknowledged. And to me, writing this kind of book is about trying to acknowledge all types of intuition, not just the waking intuition.
I love that. That's beautiful. So you are a writer, and you have these 2 memoirs, and you have this book about dreams. What is your next project? Are you writing anything now, or what else?
I am.
Yes. Oh, do
I've
tell.
been working on a book for a while. It's going to be another long while because I'm just a very slow writer. This book is thinking about how I personally became politicized, slash radicalized over the course of my life, thinking about different events that maybe people wouldn't normally associate with being politicized, but I'm trying to make those connections from like as early as, you know, second grade, becoming aware of what was going on around me politically and starting to develop a political consciousness. So that book is really, it's essays trying to explore all of the ways in which I feel I personally was politicized and later felt like I had more radical politics, and what those events were, some of which don't even feel like they're specifically related to politics. But it's an effort to have people think about how they became politicized.
Right.
What are the events that helped encourage how they think politically? So that's the next book, and it's taking me quite a while. But all these books take a while, and I have to just be patient with the process.
Right, right. And so folks can contact you at wendyortiz.com. Do you have any other ways that you'd like folks to contact you?
You can find me on Instagram. My email address is on my website. I also have a weekly newsletter called Mommy's El Camino, which is mainly about sort of, you know, my writing life and things I'm thinking about. There's also a lot of great mini interviews on the newsletter with different artists and writers because I'm so excited to hear about other people's processes. So that's a weekly newsletter that comes out on Sundays. And all of those links can be found on my link tree on Instagram or on Blue Sky.
Okay. Fabulous. And so would you have any like last minute encouragements or ideas to share with our listeners, Wendy? What would you like to close with?
Well, my hope is that, you know, if you're not recording your dreams, you start recording the dreams. But also, like, what if you thought about these dreams as their own narrative? Like, this is, you know, if you strung all of the dreams together, what is the story that is being told? So not even just looking at dreams, you know, sitting by themselves, but like looking at them over the course of years. What are the stories that might emerge when you string those dreams together and look at them as a whole? And, you know, like you have said, even when we're not remembering the dreams, there are dreams happening.
Yep.
And, you know, if there are ways that people feel like they can get closer to remembering or different techniques that people can use, like hopefully everybody's exploring those.
Wonderful. Wendy Ortiz, thank you. This has been a delightful conversation.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Good luck with your writing, and let's try to keep in touch.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Bye now.
Bye-bye.
So thank you all for listening. The Dream Journal is produced at the studios of KSQD in Santa Cruz. We are live every Saturday at 10 a.m. Pacific at ksqd.org. The podcast is released on the Monday after the show. It spreads interest in dreaming when you subscribe, rate, and review. I am Catherine Bell. You can find out about my dream coaching practice at experientialdreamwork.com. Email me at catherine@ksqd.org. That's KATHERINE@ksqd.org. Follow Experiential Dreamwork and hashtag The Dream Journal on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn to find out about upcoming shows. I'd like to thank Rick Kleffel, engineer and music creator, audio editing by Suki Wessling, phones by Max Deaton, and intro and outro pieces are both by Mood Science. Tomorrow morning when you wake up, take a minute to write down your dream and bring it to the next Dream Journal.
Where you've come from is gone.